Hey, what's up guys? Mike back again. We did it. So we're down to the final report. For me, it's our recommendation report. I know it's a little cliche, but it's something I'm very impassioned about, and that is the necessity to be good stewards with our body and take our health seriously. All right, so as you can see from the left side, these are statistics on fast foods. We'll get into that in a little bit. I just kind of want to set the stage for things that are to come. So introduction, all the things we're going to go over: the risks, diabetes, heart disease, finding the correct exercise, because we want to make sure that we build ourselves up as well. So much negativity gets put on ourselves, and we get down into that slump where we start doing all the things from 1, 2, and 3. So from 4, 5 on, we're going to talk about the positives and things we can do to better ourselves, along with dieting, conclusion, and then of course the Q&A to close things up. All right, so this is a statistic page. It's really horrifying if you think about it. Number 1 killer on the face of the planet, high blood pressure, and this comes from a reliable source, global burden of disease. The top killers all listed here: high blood sugar, obesity, diet high in sodium, diet low in whole grains, diet low in fruits, diet low in nuts and seeds. It's crazy how much is really affected by just our well-being every single day. And it kind of stands to reason. It turns into obesity and diabetes becoming a problem. So our BMI has showed that 25 and up has shown a 7 to 14 year shave off the expectancy. Basically, if your BMI rate goes on a scale of 0 up to 50 plus, and anything up to 25 is about a healthy rate, anything from about 16 to 25 is a healthy rate. Anything above that, and you start going into the obesity categories. So our physical exercise gets abandoned, and in turn, we end up really kind of falling into the pitfall of modern day society, which is becoming lackadaisical with our health. All right, diabetes. I don't know how many of you guys remember this. This is the real old school way of doing things. So basically, you used to have to prick your finger. You had to put it on the little blood sugar checker. I had plenty of friends that used to do this. This is a new modern one. I thought that this was involved with cancer the first handful of times I saw people walking around with them, but apparently now you can scan your blood sugar as this thing's on here. It just connected into your pulmonary system, registers your blood sugar without having to do the old school way of constantly having some sort of muscle damage from pricking your finger on a regular basis, almost after every single meal, and checking your blood sugar. So diabetes mellitus, group of diseases that affect how your body utilizes blood sugar. So it comes down to insulin not being able to break down the blood sugars. A lot of diets that are high in carbs, breads, certain types. It's kind of cliche, but any type of food that you have with cakes in it, specifically just sugars alone, body can't process that stuff. Or if it can, it runs at a real slower rate, and it's hard for those to burn off into calories. So in turn, you end up getting forms of diabetes, which I was unaware of until doing a lot of research. I know that there's multiple variances of diabetes, but depending on what level you're at or category, actually is dependent on what the mortality rate increases by. I know that kind of sounds redundant, but like type 1 diabetes is not necessarily linked to obesity, whereas according to the American Diabetic Association, type 2 diabetes has a link to obesity, and because of that, you're more inclined to have years shaved off your life in turn. So those are things to take into account when you're doing it. Heart disease is the number 1 killer in the world. You guys saw the statistic right off the bat. It's horrifying. It's more than 3 million more people die per year from heart disease than they do from the next one, which was smoking. And even that was 7.5 million a year. So there's some crazy stats that you can throw on here. So I thought this was interesting. Every pound of weight we put on is 5 miles of blood vessels. So if your heart beats 100,000 times a day, that's 500,000 miles a day for 1 pound of fat. So every time that you shovel another McDonald's hamburger down your gullet, take that into account, that every pound that you put on your waist is another 5 miles of capillaries that your heart has to pump blood through. And because of that, another major thing, strokes. Strokes are a common side effect because all of your vascular system gets plugged up, gets plaques, fats built up into it. You start getting limited blood to certain areas or blood clots, and because of it, your body can't process it, shuts down, and then there's a good chance that you could end up hospitalized or dead. So those are things to take into account as well. All right, guys. So now that we're done with the doom and gloom, let's talk about the things that we can do to really set ourselves up for success in the future. And that would be starting with finding the correct exercise for ourselves. It seems really cliche, but walking is a great way, low impact way of just burning off, putting aside about an hour to 2 hours a day and going out and just going for a regular walk. You burn off 600 to 700 calories. Next thing you know, you're 3 or 4 miles deep into it and you don't even realize it. It's just something better to do than sit on the couch watching another mindless television show after another. Jogging, so if you start accelerating a little bit further and you start feeling more confident in your body, you can increase the calorie burn by jogging. Obviously not exactly low impact depending on where you're running at. I'm not a huge fan of running, but at the same time I know that it's necessary for maintaining a good stamina, so I do incorporate that in my daily routine. Water aerobics. So I wasn't really aware of this. I've heard people do it, and I've done research to find out that water aerobics is actually one of the least stressful impacts that you can do. People who have a lot of joint problems will do water aerobics, a lot of elderly individuals, because you can get a full body workout out of it without having to have the side effects of slamming against the pavement or having to be concerned about falling down or anything that comes with age or being less capacity, having less of a capacity than someone that isn't in the same predicament. Yoga and stretching, that is a great way to have a mental release. It builds up, makes you limber. It puts you in a mode of zen. I don't understand how or why, but for some reason the endorphins that are released just put you in a position of complete and utter relaxation. And like I said, the side effect of being limber is really nice too, because whenever you do other workouts, it's less impactful on your joints. You feel less inclined to get Charlie horses or really have to do excessive stretching. Bicycling, I'm not a big fan of it, and honestly, as long as you're not one of these people riding out in the middle of the road, have fun with it if it's something you find that you enjoy doing. But at the same time, a lot of people do enjoy doing it, and it's a great way to burn off calories as well. Skating, so it's making a comeback. The 90s are coming back. You can actually go to any sports store, find yourself a set of skates now. I mean, you can ride anywhere. You can be on public trails. You don't have to worry about running into people, walking their animals, or just being on trails in general. As opposed to being on a bike, you got to try and veer out of people's way. So that's something to take into account. Intramural sports. So we live in Houston, or at least I do. Wherever you guys are at, there should be some intramural sports, whether it be like a softball team or a drop-in basketball league or something like that, your local YMCA or LA Fitness. You can go get involved with it, which also leads into the next thing. Find a support system. I cannot stress this enough. The hardest thing to do every single day is be able to keep yourself honest and do your own workouts. I know that I'm guilty of it. Minor amount of people are real go-getters and self-indulgent enough to where they have no problems being able to get up, stay motivated to go to the gym by themselves. But if you're like me, I prefer to work out with somebody else, especially for like a weightlifting day, just because it gives you something to stay motivated with. So like I said, try and find someone to keep you honest, and that should really help out with keeping you motivated into your daily exercise routine. All right, so we're coming down to brass tacks now. Last thing we need to talk about is dieting. So if we go over here and look at the stats, it's another horrifying thing to think. 20 to 39 years old nowadays, because this is a generation that's been built on fast food, 44.9% of the people who are going and consuming fast food are in my age range. And it's because of the fact that we get caught up in the hustle and bustle of daily lives, and it eases the burden to be able to just roll through a drive-through and pick up some food real quick, go back to the house or wherever your location was, and be about your daily business. But in turn, I also give an alternative. Guys, look right here. The movie Super Size Me is something I highly recommend you guys go watch. One of my favorites. He did 30 days of breakfast, lunch, and dinner at McDonald's. Every time they asked him to supersize me, which is one of the reasons when you roll through a fast food restaurant anymore, they won't ask you to supersize because of the enlightenment from this movie. He actually ended up losing weight and lost 6 pounds of healthy weight, lost muscle weight, and then put on 30 pounds of fat. So he was in a rough shape. It took him 6 months to actually get the weight off afterwards. And I mean, that's just something to take into account as soon as you sit down and start realizing that your belt buckle's getting a little bit tighter than it should be. And as you can see, this is a more nutritious diet. Just something well-rounded. There's not really much more to it. I mean, you've had this shoveled down your throat since you were in elementary school, how to eat your 5 food groups and how to do it in a healthy manner. But some options for you in that regard. Meal prep. So if you take a week and on a Sunday, set yourself aside maybe 2 hours, make yourself a plethora of meals throughout the week. So that way, instead of going and dropping $20 at the local Roach Coach or McDonald's, you can eat a spaghetti-made prep meal that has an allotted amount in there as well, so that way you're not overindulging, and then you have something that's halfway healthy, not processed, made at home. And it also saves you money. So a lot of people don't take into account, every time you get that value meal, I mean, that ends up being about $10 per meal at McDonald's or any fast food restaurant. The average household meal is about $4 per person as opposed to 10. So you're saving $6 right there. Another thing, if you guys are more financially oriented like me, McDonald's is the global leader with $130.4 billion of your money spent in there every single year. I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of that. So I try to avoid giving these guys as much money as possible. I try to make my own food. All right, so now we're all done. Just to kind of recap, please take your health seriously. You only got one life, so make sure that you live it the right way. Don't be constantly in depression, which is a side effect of not working out and not eating properly. Heart disease and obesity are silent killers. Stands to reason. Avoid premature mortality by exercise and diet. Find a good support system. Try and find someone that's like-minded and has your best interest at heart and wants to see you succeed and keeps you motivated as well. And lay off the fast food. Try and make your own processed meals. I'm not saying that you can't eat the fast food. Lay off of it. Try and minimize it to maybe, once, twice a month as opposed to once, twice a week. All right, guys. So last part, Stump the Chump. If you have any questions, again, my name is Mike Powell. Please feel free to reach out to me here on YouTube, or if I see you guys around the classroom, love to hear your input and your insights. Hope you guys have a wonderful one. It's been a great semester with you, and we will catch you on the flip side.